This is Talk the Devils, the athletic show dedicated to Manchester United. Coming up today, United came from behind to earn a point at the City Ground and are now unbeaten since September, or United threw away a fourth consecutive league win, letting Forest score twice inside 90 seconds just after half-time. Can both of those things be true? We'll take a proper look at the 2-2 draw in Nottingham. Everyone's here. It's a late night edition of Talk of the Devils. If you're watching on YouTube, you'll see it's exactly that. It's been a hard job, everyone getting together post-match, so we've finally done it. My apologies. It's mainly my fault, if I'm honest, but we're here now, and that's the main thing, and thank you for joining us. So, hello, Laurie, Carl and Andy. We okay?
Oh, good, mate. Yes. You even volunteered to give up hosting duties for this scene, which was very magnanimous of you to make us record earlier, but we all realised that we'd be awful at it, so we thought, please, just you do it.
Well, I mean, I didn't want to delay what the people wanted, and that's a reaction to Manchester United drawing 2-2 at Nottingham Forest. I don't want to stand in the way of these things. And Carl, you were there. There are two different ways to look at it. I sort of set that out at the top there. And actually looking at the reaction that we've had to the result as well, it seems like everyone has got a view one way or the other. It's Manchester United after all, right?
Yes, it was a rollercoaster 90 minutes. At one point, at half-time, Manchester United was second in the Premier League table, and at full-time, they were seventh. They're in eighth now, which, considering where we were in Bilbao and considering where we were in pre-season previews of would you take United finishing eighth, we were all sort of, yeah, okay, that's maybe where they're going to be there or thereabouts. It was a very strange game. In the City Ground press box, you're not too divided up from the rest of the fans in that section. And there was someone sat to my left who was just constantly shouting, seconds, Forest, seconds. So I was mildly pleased to hear an opposition fan getting annoyed at how physical Manchester United were playing, considering how last season has went.
Oh, he wasn't talking about his dinner?
No, he wasn't talking about his dinner. He's been watching a Nuno Nottingham Forest side, and now he's watching a Sean Dyche Nottingham Forest side. There's a lot of seconds going on. And that was the thing, Andy, really. And, we'll try and look at some of the positive takes from the game first, if we can. The fact that United were going up against a Forest side in their first home Premier League game. All right, it's the third match and there's all these different firsts when managers first take over. But his first game was a 2-0 win over Porto, who were going pretty well in Portugal, to be fair. That's a good result for Forest in the Europa League. So it's not a bad result for United, is it? And I think the way that the game went, actually, would United have taken a point from that last season? Doesn't feel like it.
Probably. I think you're framing it in the right way, because there's a big but here. It is better than last season. Ruben Amorim said as much. He said we would have lost that game last year, and I think that is a fair comment to make. But Forest had won one game. Forest were really struggling to score goals, and then they scored two in a couple of minutes against Manchester United, and United did look dominant. And I know Laurie put a tweet out saying Manchester United are in control. And I know he's sort of laughing at him because it didn't age well, but he was actually right with what he was saying at the time. And the league table, I was also looking at the live league table. We're up to second now, and you're getting excited, and then you plummet down to seventh or eighth. There's absolutely some positives from it. And I think this is a team which has still got a long way to go. I think half of them players will not be at Manchester United in a couple of years' time. There's a brittleness about them. There's some really good things that we're seeing as well. It was, if you're a neutral, was probably an exciting game, like Forest being in the Premier League. But there's a slight but there, because Manchester United have beaten far stronger opponents and then lost to Forest. Maybe Forest should have listened to the fan giving them advice. Do you reckon any footballers have ever heeded advice given to them from fans? Because we all sit there or know people who, 5 pints in, are dispensing advice freely to these elite athletes and telling them what to do. And I've seen some over the years, and it's just brilliant. I mean, do you imagine a player just stopping and going, you know what, mate, I'm going to do that.
As a kid, Andy, I once watched Keith Gillespie pull Karol Poborski's hair in front of me from the North stand, and I shouted at him, if he does that again, kick him. I don't think he did, but that was my instruction to him. So that's my one bit of evidence there, Andy.
Yeah, I think the man-on shout is probably the most helpful thing that any football fan can do inside a stadium. The shoot thing definitely resulted in Casemiro scoring that deflected strike, which was definitely on target in that Brighton game as well. So maybe there are moments where shouts from the crowd are helpful. I just felt like kind of punctuated the winning run, obviously, which everyone is obsessed with for reasons I'm not sure. Obviously, they want Manchester United to win. So it did punctuate that, but I did feel like that minute, Laurie, that United had, that would have lost United the game in past seasons. Certainly last season, towards the end of last season, it feels like unquestionably that would have lost Manchester United the game, and it didn't this time. So that's got to be better, hasn't it?
That was my overriding emotion at the end of the game, sort of, not satisfaction, because I think ideally, United go into that game wanting to win, Forest in a shaky moment. But given the way the game went, and given the fact that for the large part of the second half, it looked like it could be a Forest victory, where United have let 2 goals in very quickly, where you've got questions about the defence and the structure and what have you. I think then for the fact that they actually were able to kind of get a foothold in the game, and they did, I think, they kind of had possession around Forest box for quite a bit at the end of the game. I know it took a great strike by Amad, but he's got that in his locker, so you can't sort of disregard a player pulling off a moment of brilliance and sort of say it doesn't count, because then you added to that the fact they had a shot cleared off the line at the end, and you sort of think, okay, 2-2, fair result. It is a difficult place to go, the City Ground, even for all their troubles. I mean, Carl's referenced there the fans that are right around you in the press box. Obviously, it's a place I went to frequently when I was covering Midlands football for the Daily Mail, and I do think that maybe had an impact in United not getting a couple of corners that maybe should have been there, where to sort of flip it from the corner that obviously Forest fans are very upset about United getting and scoring from. So in terms of what you were saying earlier, Ian, about fans having an impact, I do think that it is that kind of ground where, because the fans are so on top of you, because they are very alert, shall we say, to the officiating, particularly with Sean Dyche before and after the game, the way he was kind of, funneling attentions. I think that, United did pretty well in the circumstances then to come through it. You can maybe, debate the substitutions. Could others have been made to kind of really push United over the line? But I can kind of, I heard what Ruben Amorim said afterwards. I can kind of get on board with that in terms of why he made certain substitutions. It kind of shows, on the one hand, and we'll probably get into this, particularly with Amad, the potential of this system, because in that first half you had Mbeumo and Amad in lots of space, I felt like, in those right-hand channels, and that really could have brought more goals. And then on the flip side, the defensive issues that might also entail when Forest managed to overload the box, and you've got Amad and central defenders not quite sure who they should be picking up, and obviously it then ends up with Amad or with too many defenders going towards the ball for each of the goals. So yeah, but overall, I thought good point in the end, given everything that had happened in the game.
Yeah, another thing that made me feel a little bit better, Carl, like an instinctive aspect, was the fact that as soon as that corner was given, and I had no idea whether the ball had gone out or not. I've seen about 16 different replays, and I'm not sure. It's the inverse of that moment against Brighton with the Marcus Rashford thing, Laurie, isn't it? Someone actually DM'd us about that to say this is the ultimate turnaround moment from Laurie's gripe against
And I think
Brighton.
I'm consistent on that, because I'm saying that shouldn't have been ruled out because you can't tell, and this can't be overruled for VAR because you can't really tell. So whatever the on-pitch officiating was, I think you should just leave it. So anyway,
just give it whatever Manchester United benefit from. I agree. Yeah, it's a really good reason in that, mate. Yeah, I wish I'd thought of
logic.
But yeah, as soon as that corner was given, I was like, I think they might score from this, because it just feels like those little things have turned in the last few matches, and that a United team that's lucky again, maybe. You make your own luck, don't you, Carl, in that regard?
Absolutely. Luck is a residue of design, and this team is looking better designed. It's improving.
It's changed.
Yeah, I should clarify what I meant on Thursday's episode, in that Amorim has not changed his system, but he has made a series of under the hood tweaks that I think have brought about improvement. And I would like to give him credit and give him kudos for those tweaks, because the team just looks in a much better place now. And if you can keep making those adjustments, then the Amorim project is a lot more likely to be a success. And now Manchester United go out for an attacking set piece, and they have genuine options. It doesn't always have to be Bruno Fernandes taking the corner kick. It doesn't always have to be aimed towards the back post where Harry Maguire is hopefully going to get a flick on and then maybe can play some pinball. You've got an extra 2 or 3 options on both of your corners and all your set pieces now that you feel confident. And I think Amorim's right in that, Manchester United are very, very prone and liable to conceding 2 or 3 goals in a flurry. And when they concede those 2 depending on who you talk to, it was 90 seconds or 102 seconds in that classic goal celebration stuff.
I think I saw something like 64 seconds from kickoff to the ball hitting the net or something. Yeah. It was quick, wasn't it? No
Surely
matter which way you
got the
it.
exact specifications for this.
I've not, mate.
Okay.
I just know that Manchester United are conceding too many goals, and it's one of the metrics which is probably one of the most negative factors. If you look at last season, the reason United went for the 3 forward players who were all doing well enough, it was because the defence was, I think, the same as Aston Villa's, who finished, 5th, 6th. And it was a lack of goals, and the goals isn't really an issue now, but the defence is conceding a lot. So we need to maybe tighten up there. That corner, I mean, where I was, the ball bobbled right past us standing into the River Trent, and then there's a corner and Casemiro headed it in from a...
Came back with sand on it, didn't it? You know what I mean?
Yeah, it did. Yeah.
But it's good. Manchester United now get corners, or they get free kicks, or they get the ball in broken play, and there's 3 or 4 players going up, and you're going, this is on. Whereas last season, they'd win the ball, and one player would be steaming up down the wing or steaming down the middle, and I'll be honest with you, I was going, please, lad, make the correct decision. I'm not begging or being fearful on both sides of the ball, other teams defending. When United are defending, I'm going, okay, we've got something here. And I think United now, when they go a goal down, I don't want to test it if they go 2 goals down yet, but when United go a goal down, there is at least some sort of innate, maybe confidence in the word, there's a sense that maybe they can get something back. And that is the value and merit of going out and spending all that money on brand new attackers. There was a moment in the first half in particular where that stuck out to me, where Sesko got the ball and it was a turn and shoot effort. And it was off target. I don't think you can call it a great shooting effort, but it was something. I saw Sesko do it and I went, Højlund couldn't do that towards the end of last season. And there are 2 or 3 things going on at the City Ground where United players are doing things, and I just went, that doesn't happen last season. Cunha in the 35th minute is tussling with Yates by the corner flag, and he sort of wriggles out and wins possession, plays it to Mbeumo, and United recycle possession. They don't really do much with it, but it was just that moment where I went, whoever is the United player there last season, they either go down and then start complaining for a foul, or they lose the ball and Forest have a shot. And is that good enough to get you Champions League football? I don't know. But I think it's good enough to get you pushing for European football. And I think this is why Amorim's been asked about this in the past of, do you think Champions League is on? He's like, well, and he's not bitten on that. And I think that's also interesting as well. And that Amorim is not biting on questions in the same way. Everyone just feels a little bit more battle-hardened, a little grey around the temples, a little bit better for that experience, and a little bit going, we don't have to completely collapse. You used the word puncture earlier, Ian, and I think confidence has been dented, but it hasn't been derailed entirely. And last season, the whole thing spins out of chaos after they go 2-1 down, I reckon.
Yeah, and I think they will benefit from the way that they reacted eventually. It did feel they went a bit flat and they lost a bit of energy in the performance in that second half after that start. Because, I mean, however many seconds or minutes there were between the goals, it was all within the first, 5 minutes of the second half. So it's a pretty disastrous way to begin the second period after, an even first half, I would say. I think overall probably a draw is about right. That said, obviously United had a fantastic chance to win it at the end with Amad as well, which we'll come on to. But let's talk about the 2 goals, because 2 set-piece goals, Laurie. Casemiro, we've talked a lot about his ability from set pieces, his ability in the air as well. Both ends of the pitch is vital for United. But his general play as well, again, I thought he had a pretty positive display all round. And when you've got that threat, and he just seems to be bringing a goal threat at the moment. It's a handy thing to have in tandem.
For sure. And I mean, where Bruno puts the ball is sort of right in the 6-yard box, and Casemiro just manages to anticipate it and read the flight of it and, nod it in. It looks so simple, doesn't it, when it works? I'm trying to think of that run where United had about 100 corners and didn't, score, let alone, or even threaten, let alone score. And so it does feel like they've got good systems, at least with the corners, the in-swinging. Variety is the preference. So you've got
always
Boom on the other
in-swingers.
side. Yeah, always in swingers. It just makes sense, right? It feels like it does to at least try and challenge the goalkeeper to come and punch it or put it right on him. Put him under threat. Look at Donnarumma for City against Bournemouth. As Carl sort of flagged before he signed for City. He's not actually great at corners. Punching them. And I thought Lomans actually was pretty good at that against Forest. I thought that was sort of an aspect to sort of reference. But yeah, I mean all So and then Amad's goal as well. I know it's a sort of second phase of a corner, but even his one, the chance at the end was more of a designed corner because obviously it's a short routine headed back across and no Sells gets a touch on it, but it's that kind of let's change the angle, let's make them think about something else. So yeah, it feels like they've got some options at least there, and you've got the big guy on the bench, Harry Maguire, not even actually threatening there. So he adds another layer of possibility, I think, in some set pieces. But no, Casemiro, I think he kind of dragged United into the Champions League places, didn't he, with his performances in his first season, not least, with his aerial ability from set pieces, the Carabao Cup final. So it's good to see him sort of still nodding it in after all he's been questioned, I've certainly questioned him, and, the football doesn't seem to have left him yet. So I think that's quite a nice, sort of just reminder that actually he's still got something to offer. And you did worry, didn't you? Or I wondered at least. Elliot Anderson in midfield, he was brilliant. I know we spoke about him before the game, but he was absolutely
very good,
everywhere. His passing, I'm just going to say there's a couple of nice passes that, so he's got rated passing.
His passing's rated, so I don't know why you're surprised by that.
He matched the rating that his passing had. But Casemiro did hold his own. It wasn't like this guy's getting run over here. And okay, I would say that Anderson came out of it as the best midfielder on the day. But I think considering, where we thought Casemiro was, I think for him to still be going at this rate and, he's now got internationals as well to contend with, I think it's a positive sign that he seems like actually can make a really good contribution this season.
Yeah, you said in there by design. I think even Amad's goal was by design. I spoke to him after the game and he said that the position that he was stood in is something that they've worked on in training. And I can't remember who the pundit was, but I listened to a pundit analyse Bruno Fernandes's instruction to Amad as well just before the goal. And he was kind of telling him exactly where he needed to be in order to be able to take advantage of any clearance to the edge of the box from Forest. Yeah.
He gobbled it up.
Yes, and Amad did it, absolutely perfectly. It was a fantastic finish. But yeah, that was by design, by the sound of it. That was actually something that the team had specifically worked on in terms of Amad's positioning for that set piece. So even that, it was just...
Wasn't it? I think I was seeing some. I think it was. Forgive me if I'm wrong. Rory Smith on a different podcast talking about Sam Allardyce back in the day and how he'd studied where the balls tend to land from corners and okay, it's not rocket science. Yeah. So, but it was those positions and again, not exactly rocket science. But if you've got a guy with amazing technique as Amad has, put him there or put him in the right kind of position, not too far back so he can't get onto it. But yeah, it's obviously something that they must talk about. But I didn't know in this instance that was the case. I kind of thought it was more, random than that. So that's really interesting to know.
Yeah, and nice to be talking about set-piece routines or set-piece setups that are working for Manchester United as well. Another aspect of the result that we can take a positive from. Right, let's talk about AFCON, if we can, because for the first time, Andy, Ruben Amorim was asked about the potential impact of the Africa Cup of Nations on Manchester United's season in the press conference before the game. Amad scoring the second goal, the equaliser, nearly scoring a stoppage time winner as well with that clearance off the line. It feels like an important topic in the coming weeks. So just to spell it out then, we've got Amad, Brian and Bumo and Nasir Mazraoui potentially all going away to represent their countries in the tournament. Amad with the Ivory Coast and Bumo with Cameroon and Mazraoui with Morocco. So the tournament begins on the 21st of December. The final is on the 18th of January. And that means that the players, if they go through to the final, could potentially miss 6 Premier League matches. It's going to have a huge impact, this. So Aston Villa away, Newcastle at home, Wolves at home, Leeds away, Burnley away, and the Manchester Derby at Old Trafford as well. It also impacts the third round of the FA Cup potentially, which is on the weekend of the 10th and 11th of January. Amorim said in the press conference that he thinks the team will struggle a little bit with the impact of AFCON, but he did then talk up the prospect of players who he felt could be getting more minutes by their performances in training, stepping up and replacing the lads who are going to go away. So what do you think, Andy? I mean, how much of an impact do you think this is going to have on United?
They're all big players. International tournaments are expanding the number of teams, the length of them. This one goes right through the festive period where football is played more intensely. It's one of basically the only time this season where Manchester United will be playing midweek matches. I mean, imagine if Onana would have stayed, Amrabat wanted to stay, you could have been losing half of your team here. Yeah.
Hannibal.
Yeah. And all those players are playing for teams who would expect to do well in that competition. Amad has become an important player. Bumo is absolutely an important player. Mazraoui's not really found his way this season as he did last season when he was one of perhaps Manchester United's 3 most important players, but I don't doubt that will come. They're away for a long time and they're going to miss a lot of matches, although the authorities will probably throw a spanner and, move the Manchester Derby to be played in June 27 on the moon or something like that, the way that things are going. And it's not a big squad, and that's what worries me a little bit. You sometimes see with Manchester United's changes that it can't be a big squad because there are not enough games, and yet I'm going to contradict myself directly because the manager is quite right in saying fringe players need minutes, but when they've been getting minutes, they've not always convinced. I think we saw a couple of trends on Saturday. It was the first time that Casemiro had played 90 minutes. Šeško played 90 minutes, which I was a little bit surprised about. And Casemiro
he struggled a bit, didn't he? Not really in the game for big periods.
Casemiro's a captain of Brazil and plays for Manchester United, and he did tire towards the end, but he has become a key player. And again, it's with his head. With Šeško, he spun and he took a shot, and if he's taking a better touch, then he's giving himself a better chance. He's getting clean in on goal. He worked hard. I think one of the reasons that Manchester United signed him was because he holds the ball up well and he lets the team move up the pitch with him in a way that Rasmus Højlund didn't do well. But there's a lot of what ifs about him at the moment. There's an 88th minute chance. I made a note of that and I've just put, could he have hit it first time to get, and that was in front of the United end where Jesper Blomqvist, the treble winner, was stood, by the way.
Oh, really?
His son.
What, in the away end?
Yeah, it was in the away end. Lovely fella, Jesper.
Had he been to the City ground since playing in that 8-1? I presume he played in the 8-1.
He did.
Yeah. So when you often ask footballers questions like this, they often don't know the answer, but he did actually know that he had been there before and he did play in that game. Jesper watches Manchester United, and not all former players do, but he's a keen watcher and he's a lovely lad. AFCON
he started left wing that day. Just had a look. Yeah.
I'd love to know if people around him realised who it was. Have you spoken to him? No.
Yeah, they didn't.
That's mad.
Yeah, it's. I think from his perspective, you're best just putting a hood up because you're friendly and you speak to people, but once word goes round, you're just going to get smothered. And he'd just gone to a game. He just wanted to watch a game of football. And
that's quite nice that nobody recognised him, to be fair, and he could just enjoy the game, because I don't think that would happen very often for him going to one of his old teams.
I think pre-season, because he still does little bits with Manchester United, he was sort of recognised and smothered, and Yeah, he just wanted to watch a game of football and can go in the
Can you
United
play right
end.
wing back when Amad goes to AFCON?
Yeah.
Well, funnily enough, thank you, Laurie, for bringing it back on topic. We had a question from Adam, actually. No, it's fine. It's interesting. It's good. Carl, we had a question from Adam. What do you think will be our solution to the impending doom that is our right wing back, right 10 position being depleted by so many of our right-sided players, more than likely going to play at AFCON? That's his wording of the question, not mine. What do you think the solution is? It's probably the easy way to put it.
Off the top of my head, really, really quickly, you move Diogo Dalot right wing back. You use Mason Mount as your right-sided 10, and it's Mount, Sesko, Cunha as your 3.
Yeah.
And then you lose possible ball progression from Mazraoui as your right centre back, but hopefully by the time AFCON starts, you've got Lisandro Martinez on the left-hand side, and that you can perhaps sort out your left-hand side issues. So then, I know fan opinion on Diogo Dalot is divided, but I think you might see a shift in orientation. So instead of United attacking loads on the right, it might shift to attacking loads down the left. I think Amorim's totally correct in saying he said the team could suffer or will suffer. I think maybe will or could might have been.
Will struggle a little bit.
Yes,
I think
will struggle. Yeah. I think it's little things like this is why, in my own personal opinion, I'm keeping my handbrake on. Instead of saying Champions League is on, I'm going, it might be closer to 6th or 8th than 4th or 5th, because you are going to be without 3 players. I mean, Ivory Coast won AFCON, won the most recent tournament the most recent AFCON tournament was absolutely sublime. The Ivory Coast manager got sacked after the end of the group stage and they still managed to win.
Forgot about that.
It absolutely baffling how that happened. Cameroon should be good. And I'm saying that with a noted upward inflection because the Cameroonian FA can very often end up squabbling with each other, and Samuel Eto'o is the president, and there's a whole bunch of stuff in there. So I know we joked about Andre Onana could have been there. I can't say that with confidence because Andre Onana's relationship with the Cameroonian national team is a bit fractured. Morocco should be heavy favourites because they're having just unprecedented success. They've built their centre of excellence. They're doing really well at youth level as well. And they're one of the many African teams that have used recent FIFA financial stimuluses really, really well. And I think AFCON is getting better tournament on tournament because now the smaller teams or the smaller nations are beginning to compete more with the more historically great nations. And that's why my nation, Ghana, isn't qualifying. But we move on. So I would expect all 3 of these players, Mazraoui, Mbeumo and Amad, will hope to make the quarterfinal stages at the very least. But AFCON is AFCON. And I've seen many AFCON favourite get knocked out very early on. So there's no guarantee there. There is enough bodies to cover.
Yeah.
But I think Andy's right in that the Manchester United squad has a lot of bodies, but I'm reluctant to say the squad has strength in depth.
Well, the thing is as well, Laurie, like there's times in this season, or there has been times in this season already where a 4-week block means 3 matches. And all of a sudden here, a 4-week block means 7 matches. And the games as well, to be honest, I'm not as worried about Villa, Newcastle City as I am about Burnley, Leeds and Wolves in a way, because they're the matches where you're going to need that little bit of creativity and that quality to unpick the lock, like we talked about the right side having going into this Nottingham Forest game. I am worried about Villa, Newcastle and City still, clearly, but it has been such a big feature of United's positive progress in the last couple of weeks, the partnership between Mbeumo and Amad. And this is a big chunk of games. Could have a big effect.
For sure. Yeah, big time. It's a big test, isn't it, for United? I suppose, just to add to Carl's points about how it might shuffle across, Dalot to right wing back seems the obvious. I don't see who else, unless you're trialling Mason Mount there. I know he played left wing back at times this seson.
Anyway, to get Mount in the team, Laurie, yeah?
Anyway, listen, he can play anywhere, okay? This guy is versatile. But I do wonder if Martinez comes back. He obviously is training now with the group, isn't he? If he can kind of get up to full fitness in time, whether there's then a little bit of a consideration about pushing Luke Shaw to left wing back and getting sort of those more attacking moments, because I certainly know that he's got it in him, right? And I get the sense that he would quite like that. You know, we spoke to him on pre-season tour, and and then you've got Aidan Heaven as well as an alternative for that left centre-back slot. He came on against Brighton and did pretty well. I know he's not had that many minutes this season, but I wonder if that's a sort of reconfiguration that might enable you to get, I know that Shaw's not a forward as such, but he is pretty good at putting in crosses. You can imagine
very,
Sesko.
very good ball progressor. Really, really important.
He can dribble with it.
When he's
tight. He's very good in tight spaces. So, so I wonder if that's sort of just one consideration. But I mean, also you've got Kobbie Mainoo, you've got Joshua Zirkzee, who players
I
that
think
want
they may have been the ones that Amorim was referring to in the press conference when he said there's players behind the scenes who are doing more than enough in training to deserve to play more. I mean, the other thing about those two, Laurie, in particular, is that they're two of the players that there's been speculation about, maybe moving on loan or permanently in January. Well, if this is going to be the case and, these three are going to be away until the middle of January, nothing's happening before the 18th. Doesn't feel like it, does it?
Yeah, I suppose that's it. If you're still not getting minutes when three big players are away, or at least two players that are in your position in terms of Kobbie Mainoo and Joshua Zirkzee, then you probably will start knocking on the door in January and wondering about your future. But it does also present this opportunity to see, okay, let's, could you try Kobbie Mainoo as that right-sided number 10? I'd be fascinated to see.
Yeah, it will be definitely interesting to see how United adapt. That's in a few weeks. Let's get back to the Nottingham Forest game, because like I said, Andy, there were positives that we've talked about. There were negatives as well. There was a negative view on what went on. And obviously it centred around the mad minute that Manchester United had in that second half, and the feeling that we'd seen that before as well. Not recently, but conceding goals in little runs is something that has been in Manchester United's game for the last few years, and it was a bit of a concern to see that happen again here.
It was. I was just going to tell you about an 80 quid flight I found to Morocco to see AFCON in Fez.
80 quid?
80 quid to Fez. Yeah.
Is that what you've been doing whilst we've been talking, Andy? You've just been on Sky Scanner?
No, I want to go to AFCON. I want to go for a week to Morocco. It's building these amazing stadiums, and I've been getting into African football a bit. I went to Tunisia last year and I went to Cairo as well. I want to go to Algeria, but they won't let me in. And there's a few other countries won't let me in either, but they will let me into Morocco. So 80 quid to Fez. I'm going to go to like 4 games. I would have been more, but obviously the Leeds game's been switched. So that's just compromised me a little bit. Oh, where were we? Back to Manchester United conceding.
No. I want you to send me these 80 quid flight details. I want to go to...
Are we doing a Talk the Devil special from Fez?
It's possible.
The Manchester United fans, because they're starved of European football this year, I've heard of different people like planning to go to AFCON and going to like concerts and going to games around Europe. These people are used to going to 5 or 6 away games a year and suddenly they're like bored out the tree, going to watch cricket matches and stuff like that. So AFCON's decent. Morocco's not an expensive country. And it's got a really good team, amazing stadiums. And in January, it's going to be warm, innit? Anyway, I will get back to the point of Manchester United's free kick.
I thought you were going to a few minutes ago, but that's fine. Tangers, that's where he's going
great,
as well.
Is it, when you concede free kicks like that? I think you're looking at the 3, and when I watched that goal back and Amad's left with someone who is much taller than him and he loses out in the air, it isn't a good look. And I've seen it analysed by people who, know what they're talking about. And it looks so simple that the 3 players they're just one player too far on, and that just leaves Amad exposed. I did feel that he'd started defending well, Amad. I think it's part of his game, which is improving. But you can't expect him to compete in the air with someone who's half a foot taller than him, and that was happened. So I don't know how you rectify that. Is that just more practice?
Amorim called it a gamble. So it was Gibbs White who
it was Gibbs White
jumped him for the first goal.
Yep.
Yeah.
First goal. And Amorim called it a gamble, saying you don't normally, I'm paraphrasing it, so please forgive me, he said you don't necessarily want Amad to be in that position 1v1 in the air against someone. But also he offered the reason why you play Amad and the reason why you play him in that sort of position is because ideally Manchester United as a front 3 or as a front 5 should have the ball and should be able to keep the ball in the opposition half. So Amad as a defender is working as part of a coherent collective or a pressing unit on the front foot rather than being on the back foot there. And it did feel, particularly in the second half, right at the start of the second half, where Forest went, let's have a go with these crosses, because Amad wasn't having a great game at wing back, and Diogo Dallo in particular really seemed a little bit seasick. There were 2 or 3 times in the first half where Amorim was talking to him about where he needs to be stood and where he needs to be doing things as well. So hopefully this is just a one-off, and you don't go into your next game against Spurs and Spurs go, let's just start whipping in crosses towards the back stick and seeing what happens next. But then also, as Amorim has explained, you put Amad as your wing back because he can do that, right? He can get you those equalisers. He's another attacker you can get on the field after a season where United struggle to attack. So there's just a risk reward to playing him there that will likely continue for the remainder of the season as long as he's available. So I don't think he's going to be dissuaded from playing Amad at right wing back. It's just going to be a case of get more protections around him.
They've been quite smart on the Forest because Milenkovic was in the box, and so he kind of occupied one of the centre backs, and they'd kind of, I think, lost who they were supposed to be lining up against. And then you've even got Callum Hudson-Odoi behind Amad, so they actually had 2-on-1 at the far post, really, Forest. So that's something for United that's clearly a malfunction, isn't it, in the system, where they need to just be able to drill those moments when the unexpected happens, and a team against them shoves a 6-foot-odd centre back up front.
Yeah, it was a malfunctioning minute because it wasn't just that goal. Obviously, it was the second one shortly after. We had a point from Anthony, actually. Says Amad has been taking heat for the first Forest goal. There's 3 centre-backs drawn to the ball. What do you think? Should someone else be covering this area? I thought overall Amad was a bit inconsistent, but when he also made things happen in the second half, and feels like we're starting to see more of the form that he had before the injury last year, which, I think, that was his first goal of the season, wasn't it, as well, in the game. And you wonder whether there are ways to mitigate exactly how that goal was conceded. The second goal, there's not the same excuse because it was the centre-backs missing out, and it's Diogo Dallo as well, who maybe isn't reacting quite as sharply as the Forest player to it. Dallo, Andy, is getting a lot of heat at the moment, and obviously he was one of the players who was taken off in the game at the City ground. It's actually the first time that Ruben Amorim had named unchanged teams across 2 Premier League matches that from the Brighton game. He's done it he's done it cross tournament, so Europa League to Premier League, but never Premier League to Premier League before. And I think maybe there is a bit of a question mark maybe on Dallo ahead of the game against Spurs.
I think he's getting more heat than any Manchester United player at the moment, and I think some fans always want a scapegoat, and yet when I say that, I know that people will be going, we're criticising him because he's been the poorest player. I think he was the poorest player at the City ground at the weekend. In mitigation, he's not playing in his strongest position. And there's been times where he's been quite an important player for Manchester United. Look, he's not the best in his position in the world. I do think eventually it will be an area that Manchester United do strengthen. But this is where the team and the club are right now. He's a top professional. He cannot be faulted for that, but fans also know what they're seeing. And when you watch him as he played against Forest at the weekend, it wasn't great. Just looking at my notes that I made from the match about him, and I just said that he was probably that he was definitely Manchester United's poorest player. He was exposed by a ball over the top for Savannah, and that was his positioning, and I think the manager took issue with him. There was a point where he did very well to cut out a cross from Gibbs White, but look, I'm sounding hesitant here because he is underperforming, and he either starts performing or he gets back into a more natural position for him, or he's shown the door further down the line.
Dogu was brought on, Carl, at left wing back, according to Amorim, because there was a lot of space that he felt the left wing back was having in the second half as United were trying to chase down chased down the game. He felt actually that Lenny Yoro and Diogo Dallo were the two players who seemed to have the most ability to affect the game in terms of the way that the shape of the two teams were, and that's why he made the changes in those positions. It was odd in a way that United are chasing a match and they don't make changes, but then you looked at the players who were on the field, you look at the players who were on the bench, and clearly Ruben Amorim felt that the ones who were on the field were more capable of making the breakthrough.
So this is, to go back to what Laurie says sometimes about how watching football in the stadium can be very different to watching it on TV. So in the press conference room, Ruben is asked about his substitutions and he's giving his explanation. So he said, like you said, he said with Diogo Dallo, there were 2 or 3 times he was getting onto the ball and getting onto space, but he had to cut inside and it was more beneficial to get someone on left foot so they could hit that first time cross. So therefore he brought on Dorgu. And then he said, particularly in the second half as the game was getting stretched, he believed Joro was getting the opportunity to carry the ball more into the final third. And he thought if you could bring Mazraoui onto the field, because Mazraoui is a fullback, he would be more comfortable into the final third and getting those swinging balls in there as well. He also said, when you are trying to feel the rhythm of a game, he said he didn't want to make too many breaks. And he thought the longer he keeps certain players out there, he would increase the ability for them to affect things, rather than if you keep making all those changes, there's no guarantee the substitute is immediately able to catch the rhythm and the pace of the game. And that's why he kept the things the way he was and just wanted to make those 2 subs. And I'm in the press conference room and I'm nodding my head going, yep, this is great. Totally makes sense. Your internal logic is sound. Fantastic. Finish my article, type it all up, watching, I think it was Spurs Chelsea afterwards, and I have a quick scroll through social media and the comment section as all these quotes go up. And one person simply goes, yeah, but if you need a left footer at left wing back, why don't you just swap that earlier? Like if you just play left footer there all the time. I went, oh yeah, like he could have made more sense. If you want Dalot on the ball to make crosses, why don't you just move him to the right wing so he can get the ball onto loads of crosses and play Dorgu anyway? And again, it's the weird thing of everyone's got their own opinion. I'll say when I was in the room, everything Ruben Amorim said made total sense, and I saw no issue with it. And it made total sense that said in the room. But then I suppose I saw people just reading the quote out of context and they're going, this is absolute nonsense. But I don't think Ruben Amorim made any substitute that lowered the team's ability to win the game.
No, I just think it was interesting, Laura, that he only used 2 because he does make a lot of changes. Obviously, one of the 2 had to be one of the centre-backs because that's just part of the rule book now, isn't it? Carter sent this in. He said, I can't get past Ruben's substitutions today. Mount, Mainu, Xerxes and Maguire. Yeah, this is probably the first time United have chased a game without Harry Maguire up front for some time, maybe.
Well, it was City ground last season when Maguire went up top, and that was kind of the eye of the storm in terms of, the 4-4-2 even, was that Maguire in a 4-4-2?
Right, okay. All players who have scored goals, Mount, Mainu, Xerxes, Maguire, for Manchester United in the past 6 months, and they were all forced to watch from the sidelines. So, yeah, there is a bit in that. And Sesko wasn't in the game much, but like Carl says, actually being at the game and listening to Amorim's explanation afterwards, and especially given the fact that United did get back in the game by equalising and then nearly scoring just afterwards. All right, it took them a few minutes in that second half to get there, but they got there eventually. I don't know if I'm too disappointed with the changes that he made. What do you think?
I agree, with what Carl's saying there. I was kind of nodding along when I saw the quotes come out. I sort of thought there was logic to it, and so I don't mind it. Like, I think potentially there is a world in which he's just helping out Diogo Dallo. He doesn't want to throw him under the bus by saying actually he was having a stinker, so I thought I needed to change him.
Maybe.
Whatever the case. But we've also looked at Dorgu previously and said he's actually getting on the ball too much given the quality that he's got right now, and he's young and you don't want to have to be relying on him. Dallo has done it, to a certain level. He was player of the season a couple of years ago. So you kind of think, okay, even though he's on the right, he's got that. There's a variance to that game at least on the left side with the right foot to maybe cause Nottingham Forest some trouble.
I felt in the Brighton game as well, he was important to enable Luke Shaw and Matthias de Ligt jumping on because he was covering him behind so well in that game.
And allowing Amad to push forward on the right, as Andy said previously, that kind of shuffling across.
It's the on-ball stuff that he's getting criticised for, isn't it? But you look at some of the off-ball
defensive
stuff.
thing, with Savona not reacting quick enough to that, which I suppose it's been a kind of consistent theme, hasn't it? Fullbacks not quite reacting quick enough. I remember Wan-Bissaka was getting hammered for that same thing, not checking his shoulder at times for United. So it feels like, I don't know, it must be a very difficult skill, to do as a fullback, to be able to have that 360 knowledge. But at the same time, that looked quite bad, didn't it? That a guy behind you has been able to seize the ball ahead of you and score a decisive goal at that moment.
Maybe a bit of that's been on the wrong side as well, possibly. His natural way of
being
defending.
on the wrong side. I think
Yeah.
communicate. We already spoke about the power of a man on shout from the crowd. I think the power of
he didn't get one from the away. The away end was at the end. That was what the issue was. If there had been that end,
definitely the power of a man on shout from your back three and from other teammates can really be helpful if you're someone who doesn't always check your shoulders.
Yeah, it's a right shoulder or left shoulder shout, isn't it?
Yeah, that's something you hear all the time from teammates. And I totally agree with everything being said here. And I wouldn't be surprised if it very much feels like Manchester United in summer 2026 will be looking for one central midfielder, if not two big central midfielder signings. I think Amorim's next step, or the way he views developing his squad, will require an upgrade at wing back on top of that as well, because Diogo Dalot is a good squad player, but even at his best, he's always been an erratic crosser. If you are going to play wing backs, you kind of want your wing backs to be some of the best football players on the field, because they're going to get so much more of the ball.
You mentioned centre midfielders. Let's finish, Andy, if we can, just talking about a couple of different points. Elliot Anderson, Laurie mentioned him before. We said that Carlos Baleba had a bit of an audition for Brighton that didn't go brilliantly at Old Trafford, but Anderson was much more impressive in this game. And Ty Moore said, on a positive note, we know we need to sign now to reinforce our midfield. Elliot Anderson, you only need to see one lot of 90 minutes to decide this. He was everywhere. Reminds me of Declan Rice. We absolutely must sign him. I'm not sure about the Rice comparison, but yeah, you could definitely see in that game why he's been getting so many plaudits in that Forest midfield.
Yeah, and Amorim praised him before the game. I think United will go for...
Name-checked him.
Yeah. Well, I think United will go for two central midfield players, probably in the summer. And he is the one who would be in well-positioned at the moment for Manchester United. I'm choosing my words extremely
I love transfer
carefully.
Junkie Andy feeding.
Yeah, exactly.
Giving the information. You've said a few things actually tonight. I've let you off, and I maybe we're at the end of the podcast, so I'll pick it up on the next podcast that we do. But you said half the players won't be here in 2 years. Diogo Dalot might be showing the door if he doesn't improve, and now two midfielders, and Elliot Anderson is definitely coming to Manchester United.
Well
so that's
positioned.
interesting. Yeah. Interesting little sequence.
I have no evidence that Elliot
there,
Anderson is coming to Manchester United. I think Dalot is he's got to improve. What was the other thing I said that you're pulling me up on?
Just the number of players that would leave. But then I was going through it in my mind, and I was thinking, actually, probably I was, age of players and contracts and stuff.
To be honest, when he said it, I was like, oh, I have to pick him up on that. And then I started to go through the team as well, and thought, right, midfield probably is going to change in the next few years.
So
the
call
back
me back then 2 years from now.
Over two of them. Maybe.
He's giving himself enough runway, hasn't he, with 2 years. We'll all forget on by then, but
especially because you've got like 4 new players in the starting lineup as well. So yeah, I'll let him off on that. Laurie, final point. You wanted to bring up some stats that you'd seen on social media from Umer Irfan about Manchester United's record when they have more possession or less possession than an opposition. It's a really interesting point, isn't it?
He's a really interesting guy to follow him on social media, on X that I do. And he does great tactical breakdowns. But yeah, he just posted at full time that basically United have 1.79 points per game when having less than 50% possession under Amorim in the Premier League. And when they go to more than 50% possession, as they did against Nottingham Forest, their points per game drops to 0.83, which I just think is, I suppose, a little bit symptomatic of where United are at right now and what we've spoken about previously. The game at Anfield where they're going more direct, they're looking at second balls, not necessarily bossing possession. I do think ultimately Amorim wants to get to that point where you are controlling it in the final third and you kind of hemming teams into the guys' earlier points about the number of attacking players that he would ideally like to have on the pitch. But clearly it speaks to the way that they're able to actually get victories at the moment, really. on the counter-attack maybe, or, you know, where you're not actually building up play from the back so much. I do think there's a wider Premier League theme of that. You know, I was watching the City game against Bournemouth. I know you might pull me up here, Ian, but obviously they had less possession than the Bournemouth in the game, and they won 3-1, and it felt like a lot of it was to do with Bournemouth being good on the ball, yeah, but I mean, Bournemouth don't necessarily want to boss possession. They're kind of quite up and at it, you know, direct with their play, win it back and go forwards, and it felt like that tapped into Haaland's ability, you know, in behind to those kind of longer balls or sort of quick passes through. So yeah, just an interesting facet that I thought was something we can kind of keep an eye on as the weeks go on.
Yep, something definitely I'm going to try and write about this month. I did ask, in the pre-match before Forest, I did ask Ruben if the way Manchester United are currently playing, and I said fast and direct. I said, was that always your intention, or is this just one step?
Or was it a change? Sorry.
I said, was it is this one step in a proposed evolution? And he said for him, attacking football is a numbers game. And he said, if you're in a position where you've got your three, you've got Cunha, you've got Brian, you've got Sesko, and the availability is there, you should go for it. And for him, or I think for Manchester United, it's not going to be passing for the sake of passing. It's if you can get the ball to the final third in 2 passes, do so. But if you are going to build out the back slowly, it's more about building space in behind for you to play in eventually, rather than trying to dominate the ball for just dominating the ball for. You don't want sterile possession when you're Manchester United. Louis van Gaal did too much of that.
Oh yeah, we're all still scarred a little bit by that, aren't we? He also, I think it was that answer, he sort of laughed and said it was a nod to the traditions of English football as well.
He did say that too.
Which was a nice line from him, and shows that a year in, he's got his feet firmly under the table in the Premier League. Right, let's leave it there then. We've got 2 more podcasts coming your way this week. One more on YouTube, which will be our usual Thursday show, but we've got an extra audio only, which is coming out hopefully in the next sort of 48 hours, something like that. So keep your eyes peeled for that. It's a Q&A. We've had lots of questions already. We like to do a mailbag every month if we can. So the Talk the Devils Extra will be all about your questions. There's still time to submit them if you want to get some more in. So devilspod@theathletic.com if you want to get in touch. Also, there is still a handful. It's a ever decreasing handful, but there is still a handful of tickets left for our London live show, Talk the Devils Live at Soho Theatre in Walthamstow on Tuesday, November the 11th, which is just over a week's time, something like that, under a week's time. What day are we today? Monday. And you'll be listening on Tuesday. It's in a week's time, so there's not long to get them. All the details on how to buy the tickets are in the show description. As always, we'll be back with that Talk of the Devils Extra on your podcast feed, and we'll be back later on in the week on YouTube and your podcast feed as well with the next Talk of the Devils. But for the minute, Laurie, Andy, Carl, thank you so much for being with us, and thank you for listening and watching as well. We'll see you on the next one. Take care. Bye-bye. Thanks for watching this episode of Talk of the Devils. Don't forget to hit subscribe if you've not done already. Like the video and also get involved in the comments too, and click the bell to make sure that you never miss an episode with myself, Andy Mitten, Carl Anker and Laurie Whitwell. There's also our social channels @TOT Devils on Instagram, X and TikTok. Thanks for watching.